Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a B-movie review and I'll be having a look at Dark Rising, Bring Your Battle Axe. So this is an ultra low budget movie from Canada. And if you're a wrestling fan, incidentally, it actually features a Christian, which his real name is, I believe, Jay Resso. Anyway, this film basically is the tried and tested story of a group of young people basically messing around at a sort of campsite and accidentally summoning up something that they shouldn't, in the form of a demon and also a beautiful kind of warrior woman who seemed to have been kidnapped and taken to a different dimension in a prologue at the beginning of the movie. And the plot is incredibly simple here. It's just simply these kind of like young people ultimately teaming up with this kind of warrior woman who kind of looked a little bit like Xena and who is wearing an actual Thor helmet from the costume you can buy off Thor, and trying to defeat this demon and ultimately put it back into this ultimate dimension. And that is really the plot. The plot is incredibly straightforward, and the kind of the weird thing here, the actual story really doesn't actually start until around halfway through the film. The beginning sort of 45 minutes really is just kind of set up, and these kind of five kind of people ultimately sort of driving out to this campsite, and the kind of like the sort of love triangles and all that sort of going on behind the scenes that no one really cares about ultimately. In between that, you kind of see these sort of weird scenes where we see some kind of like woman being experimented on a table, and doesn't really make a lot of narrative sense, I have to say. Once we get to the halfway point, and kind of the demon is ultimately sort of summoned along with this kind of warrior woman called Summer, who say it was the kind of young girl who was kind of sort of zapped into this dimension at the beginning of the movie. And there's obviously a kind of attraction between her and one of the other guys who was dating one of the girls from the party. So, you can see how it kind of goes. There are some funny moments here. There are some of the lines and kind of things that are written are quite amusing sometimes, I have to say. There are some misses in regards to the jokes. I will say this, it's a very low budget film, but it kind of, the way the camera work is and stuff, it actually looks like it may have been higher budget than it actually is. But however, we look at kind of the special effects side of things, and that does look very cheap. And the actual demon that we see looks incredibly sort of cheap, and just really just kind of look like it's made of paper mache. But I appreciate obviously it's low budget, it's not going to be able to afford particularly good effects. The performances were quite okay again for the sort of budget, I have to say. They actually have quite an interesting skew on the kind of the male hero, where he's actually kind of metrosexual and a bit of a sensitive soul, so to speak, and not really the kind of manly man that the warrior woman just expects him to be because simply he's a man. So that was kind of quite fun. But the problem is with this movie, as I say, is really there's nothing really much to it. Nothing really happens until the kind of the sort of second half of the film. And then when it does happen, it is really very just a straightforward, kids go out in, well not kids, young adults go out in the woods, summon a demon and send it back to hell, and that's basically it. And then you have these kind of weird other things that don't really make sense, where it looks like this other dimension it's kind of almost like a fantasy dimension. She has some kind of technology in her back, which is kind of like a little bleeping tracking device, which kind of doesn't obviously really fit in the fact that she's come out with a sort of a barbarian axe and the helmet, and we kind of see these sort of like flashbacks where she's kind of which looks like a doctor's table, and she's kind of getting injected by syringes and things like that. So don't really know obviously what actually is meant to be going on here. It's a little bit confusing. It was technically good for the money, I suppose, but as an entertaining movie it really wasn't. So I'm going to have to give this one a 3.5 out of 10. What did you think of it? Leave me a comment. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.